Today we're going over what I consider to be one of the best chess openings for beginner players out there, and that's the Giuoco Piano. I played this for many years when I was growing up, and it starts out with the Italian game. Now, the Italian game for white starts out with us playing this move e4, and against e5, very standard chess here, knight f3, and against knight c6, playing this move bishop c4. This is the Italian game. By doing it, we're putting pressure on the weakest pawn in chess on f7, and there's different things that black can do here. One of them is this move of knight f6, where we have multiple different options against that, one of them being knight g5 going into the fried liver. But after this move bishop c5, we now have the Giuoco Piano, and I really want to spend some time today just talking about the different options that you have as a player, right? Not going super in depth, but just talking about, okay, what kind of opening options do we have and what kind of styles do they bring out depending on your style of play, right? Some of us are more aggressive, some of us are more positional. What can we do here? Well, for the longest time, when I was growing up, I played this move of c3, which is a good move. This is the main line of the Giuoco Piano. The whole idea here is that we're trying to prep a d4 pawn push, at least in the main line. Now, we could play this move b4 as well, as we're going to see, against this move of knight f6. What I usually did was play this move of d4, right? And by playing this, black would capture back, I take back, we have this bishop b4 check move. And what I grew up being taught was to play this move of bishop to d2. Now, looking back on this, I'm not totally sure this is the strongest idea that we have. Okay, I actually think that black has a better position here depending on how they play it. But just to show you what I memorized growing up, and you can memorize this too. It's not like it gives white a lost game or anything like that. What I memorized is, okay, black takes, I capture back with the knight, we have d5, we capture, we play queen b3, forming this battery ram against that minor piece. And if black plays knight ce7, we can castle kingside, bring our rook towards the center, and then here we have, rook ac1 is a solid move, knight e4 is the engine move here, just starting to go after these dark squares a little bit with both of our minor knights. And if something like knight b6, you can always save your bishop, and it's an interesting position. We have this pawn on d4 that is an isolated queen's pawn, but we have good development, which is nice, and we can always support this pawn as well with rook a d1 if we need to. So this is how, generally speaking, right, I grew up learning how to play this opening, and you can memorize this line as well. Let me warn you, though, of a couple of pitfalls that could come your way if you end up doing this. Okay, so taking a step back to knight f6, let's say we play this move, a pawn to d4, right? And black takes, they throw in the check. If we play bishop d2, the engine move is actually not black capturing here. It's black playing knight takes e4. And for a while, I just thought that this was a bad move because here in this case, we're able to take on b4, throw in a check. And if black takes, by the way, if they don't, we're winning. We throw in a check on queen b3, and we're going to win this knight. This knight is going to be ours. Knight d5, terrible move. We're going to take with check and be attacking another minor piece. And if a move like king f8, good move, we can now capture back with the queen. And I'm just thinking, you know what? This is terrible. The black king can't castle. We can. But it turns out after queen e7, Stockfish actually gives black the edge here. Black has the edge in this endgame. Sure, we could play a move like queen a3 or something, but there's still a lot of pressure against our king here. It's a little bit uncomfortable. And if we capture off, we end up in a position like so, where we have an isolated pawn, which is not great in the endgame. It's just not. An isolated queen pawn, in the earlier stages can be great for space and activity and attacking chances, but at this point, it's not too much of a plus. So, we can play knight c3 and offer a trade. Of course, black doesn't have to take it. If they do, all right, we don't have that isolated pawn on the d file. It's on the a file now, which is a little bit better. But I don't know, a move like b6, I would play this if I were black, and I just feel like black has an edge here. I mean, bishop b7, talk about an active minor piece there. Bishop a6, slicing and dicing all the way down to f1. This is a hard position to play from the white side, and Stockfish does give the edge to black. Okay, so we do got to be very careful about that. So if you do end up going back to this bishop b4 check position, if you do like the whole c3 d4 idea, that's fine. I would probably recommend knight bd2 here, though. If you're going to go for that, I'd probably recommend this because, by the way, if something like bishop check, we're going to take back with the bishop. Okay, we're actually okay if they capture on e4. We're about dead even here, according to the engine, and we do, have some compensation because we're down a pawn. If you're down a pawn and the engine is telling you that it's in dead even position, well, okay, you got some attacking chances. Here we can play d5. If the knight runs away, we can play bishop c1 and keep playing chess. going back. If black decides to take on e4 immediately, again, we can castle kingside, right? We can castle kingside. It's also possible to play d5 there, either one. But at some point here, right, let's just say black, continues trying to capture off. If we see d5, we can pin that knight. If we see castling kingside, now we're going to be the ones to play d5 at some point here. Play d6, try to break this game open. Knight g5. Interesting line going after that f7 pawn. And after h6, this is a rare moment where we actually try to give up 2 minor pieces for a rook and a pawn. That's usually just a terrible idea, but in this case, it's actually pretty okay. I mean, yeah, we're going after that king. And by the way, king h8, this is dead loss for black. We're going to play f4. We have ideas like queen d3, queen h7. And if you take, we capture back with the f-pawn. This entire file is way too weak, and yeah, the engine says that white is completely winning this position. This position is indefendable for the black side if they're trying to maintain an advantage. So when we go back, black really needs to take on f7, but we still capture, play a move like rook fe1, and yeah, I mean, this is just a hard position to play. Knight g8 is the only move that gives black a fighting chance. That's not over +1 or even +2 for white. Anything else over +2 for the white side. For example, b6, well, we just take on e7 with check. If the king wants to take back, go ahead. We're going to play rook e1 check, keep going after your king. And if the queen takes, queen d5. Very next move, we're picking off that rook on a8, right? So this is great for us. This is great. Going back to bishop b4 with check. When we do see this, again, we could play bishop d2. That's fine, right? There's also this move of knight to c3 with the Greco attack. But overall, the most sound move that you can play here is knight b to d2. I really quickly wanted to mention that I am giving out private lessons to those of you that are interested in taking your game to the next level. I mean, chess is a hard game. It just is, right? It's complicated. It's hard. There's so many different areas, openings, middle games, end games, tactics, pawn structure, all this different stuff. And it can be kind of hard to come up with a game plan on how to improve, right? And as a coach, my job is to help you assess your strengths and your weaknesses as a player, help turn those weaknesses into strengths. And once you do that, you should be cruising on to the next tiers. Okay, I've had many students gain hundreds of rating points through our lessons and going over ideas, going over games, all that kind of stuff. And I want to mention too, if you want something specific, that's great, right? If you want to just focus on the hippopotamus defense and working on that area of your game, great, let's do that. If you want to just focus on endgames, that's perfect. If you're a player that's like, you know what, I don't really know what I want to work on, but I'm just trying to improve and that's it, okay, that's when we can come together and come up with a game plan. No matter where you're at with chess, no matter what you're wanting to work on, I try my best to be flexible with my students and serve them the best I can. If you're interested, I'll leave a link down below in the description, in which case you can reach out to me. No strings attached, just a chance to reach out and yeah, just discuss where you're at in chess and really where you're trying to get. All that to say, I'm excited about the possibility of helping you improve at the game of chess. And yeah, let's head back to the main video. Now, when you take a step back to knight f6 after the move c3, we don't have to play d4 though. There's other options we can play. I mean, this move d3, this is a very strong move for white. This is the Giuoco Pianissimo. Yeah, it might seem a little bit slow. It might seem a little bit timid, but I don't think it is. We're just playing principled chess, developing our pieces, fighting for the center. We do have ideas like b4 and a4 on the way here potentially. And of course, black could play a5, but then they're weakening their light squares a little bit. They're feeling a little bit weak on their light squares on the queen side. So that's one option that you have, is just playing this move d3. You could also play b4. This is the bird's attack of the Italian game, Giuoco Piano. This is this is quite a bit of fun, and just really trying to ask that bishop, hey, where are you going? What do you want to do? If the bishop drops back to b6, we can play d3. This is just kind of an easy way to guarantee that you're going to get the move b4 if you are worried about a5 slowing down your activity on the queen side. If a move like castling kingside, I do want to warn you, don't get too crazy with b5. I mean, a move like knight a5 can happen, and in this case, our bishop is trapped, which is not great. So what I would recommend is just keep taking space here, threaten to trap the bishop. If black wants to play a5, then you can play b5, because guess what? The knight can't go there. But yeah, that's just something to think about, right? Something to think about there. So we take a step back to bishop c5. Again, you can play c3, and against knight f6, you can go with d3, you can go with d4, you can go with b4. Those are just a few options that you have available. In this case, you don't have to play c3 though, right? There's other moves that you can make. Knight c3 here, solid move, hard to argue with it. We have this move castling kingside, solid developmental move, hard to argue with that. We can also play this move d4. I didn't even know this move existed before prepping for this video, the Italian Gambit. Didn't know that was a thing. But it really transposes into a lot of stuff. Like, let's say this move e takes d4 is played, which is by far the most popular move in online chess. We can play knight g5 going after that pawn. Turns out knight e5 here. Is that a good idea? No. We're going to take on f7, attacking your queen, attacking your rook, attacking your knight. If you decide to capture our knight, we throw in a check, and you can't take back without us throwing in a check. This bishop is going to be ours, which is great. Going back, knight h6 is a much better move, right? At least in this case, they're getting some development. This rook is a little bit closer to getting in the game. We still get to take on f7, and at the end of all this, throw in a check and snatch off that bishop. And yeah, I mean, we'll take it if a move like rook e8. One little mislip here, right? It was even, but now one little mislip there, which looks like a good move to me, honestly. Well, queen d5 and we're better. King g7, let's play bishop g5. If you want to take on e4, fine. We'll take your rook and you can take our bishop, and in that case, we're going to be up material. If you end up playing knight e7, you're just completely lost. We throw in a check, if you just look at this position, the knight cannot move, the queen cannot move, the rook can move. The rook can move, but that still doesn't solve the problem with the knight, and yeah, we just have a lot of activity here as white, and we're up in material. Okay, so we'll take it. Going back to bishop c5, you also have this idea of b4. You may have heard of the Evans Gambit before. This is a fun gambit for white. What I recommend that you memorize first, if you have to memorize anything, is bishop takes b4, c3, bishop a5, d4, e takes castling kingside. We'll do that one more time. We play the move b4, bishop captures, c3, bishop back, d4, and when they take castling kingside. This is how a lot of grandmaster games start off. And yeah, in this case, we usually see black play a move like d6 or knight e7 or capture on c3. There's a few different options that black has there. Even, yeah, knight f6 is a good move there. But yeah, it can lead to a fun game for white. It isn't sound right now. It's not like a terrible gambit if your opponent knows what to do. But I would say that black has the advantage here if they know what they're doing. So the Evans Gambit, it's fun, but I wouldn't necessarily call it sound. Black can get a slight advantage if they know the refutation. And going back, I thought we'd finish out by just covering what I actually played for quite a while. So again, when I was growing up, I played c3 and d4, but then I just kind of realized, those are giving me kind of drawish games. It's not the most sound. Let's just play this move of pawn to d3. Let's just play this move. And this is played quite a bit at the grandmaster level. Playing that pawn up and just developing. I mean, if knight f6, I actually kind of put my own twist on it. I actually liked the castle queenside, which a lot of my opponents got in trouble if they castled kingside too quickly, and they oftentimes did because they felt comfortable in a classical position like this. They just didn't ever really think about castling queenside from white. If a move like knight c3, let's say black goes with some like h6 to keep my bishop out. Okay, I'll play bishop e3, right? I'll offer a trade. If you want to take, go ahead. I'll capture back. Let's say you, play d6. a3 is a good move to throw in there at some point, just so that if knight a5, your bishop's able to run away and, not lose itself for the knight. If castling kingside, queen d2. Yeah, I'd often go for an idea like this. And again, I've had games where, black will take on f3, and there you go. And all of a sudden, whoa, the g file is open. The g file is wide open. This oftentimes is in white's favor. Going back, if we see a move like bishop to b6, we can play queen d2, right? And if castling kingside, guess what? Bishop takes h6. This is great for us. The queen captures back. This is a sound sacrifice. The king cannot move anywhere. Our bishop is very active. And yeah, I mean, we have moves like knight d5, knight g5 on the way. This is a very hard position for black to defend. And even if they defend it perfectly with proper play as white, we have a winning game. Okay, so that kind of explains the Giuoco Piano into bishop c5 and some of the options that you have. Let me know what you thought of this down in the section, in the comment section below, and let me know as well, what you play as an e4 player. Have you tried out the Giuoco Piano? Have you tried out the Italian game? And where do you go from there? Do you usually, against bishop c5, do you play Evans Gambit? Do you play c3, d3? Do you just castle and play knight c3? What do you go with from the white side? And if you did enjoy this, and if you did get something out of it, I would appreciate it a ton. My family would appreciate it a ton if you could hit that like and subscribe button. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching today's video. I wanted to give a big shout out to my Patreon supporters for the month of October in 2024. If you guys haven't checked out the Patreon before, there's some exclusive benefits that you gain by becoming a member. And if you join, I look forward to seeing you over there. Subscribe for more content, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.